All right, let's dive into something pretty mind-bending today. We're going to explore a way of looking at reality that starts with a really simple, kind of unsettling thought and ends up being a map of the human mind itself. And it all kicks off with one big question. So this is the core of the problem, right? If we just accept that maybe, just maybe, objective reality is something we can never truly know, that changes, well, everything. It means that all our best tools for figuring out the universe, math, physics, they're really just incredibly powerful metaphors. Super useful for sure, but they might not be the real deal. And that's the question that really gets this whole idea rolling. If we can't look out there to find the ultimate answers, what happens if we start looking in here, at the very way we perceive the world in the first place? Now, to build up this new way of thinking, we're not going to start with some crazy complex theory. Nope. We're going to start with a really strange but probably familiar feeling. A feeling you've likely had about time and those huge events that just define your life. Think about it for a second. Have you ever tried to remember a thought you just lost? It's almost impossible, right? But coming up with a new thought about what you're going to do next, that feels totally effortless. It's almost like there's this magnetic pull always tugging us into the future. So this flips our whole idea of cause and effect. Instead of thinking you're pushing through time, making things happen, imagine this. The big event itself, let's call it a node, already exists, kind of like a point of gravity. And it's pulling all the necessary pieces of your life, all the little moments, towards it until, bam, it happens. You're not pushing towards it. It's literally pulling you in. Okay, so from that weird feeling about time, a whole formal structure starts to take shape. Let's decode the building blocks of this thing, what the source material calls the source code of thought. First up, we have the node. And it's incredibly simple. A node can be, well, anything. A thought, a coffee cup, a person, an idea, any single thing you can point to. And the second piece is a system. And a system is just any group of nodes. So a car, that's a system of parts. A friendship is a system of people and memories. Even a sentence is a system of words. Simple enough, right? But here, right here, is where it gets so cool. These two ideas lock together in a loop that goes on forever. A car is a system of engine parts, right? But the car itself is just one single node in a bigger system we call traffic. And traffic is a system, but it's also just one node in the even bigger system of a city. You see how that works? It just keeps going. So, how far does this loop go? Where does it stop? The answer is, it doesn't. This structure doesn't just repeat a couple of times. It scales infinitely. And this quote just nails it. Every single time you zoom out to get the bigger picture, that new picture just becomes one small piece, one little node of an even bigger picture. That's literally the definition of a fractal, a pattern that just repeats itself no matter how much you zoom in or out. And the most important part to get here is that this goes in both directions, forever. You can break any node down into a system of smaller nodes, and you can see any system as just one node in a bigger one. There's no final biggest system and no ultimate smallest node. Okay, so with this infinitely scaling fractal thing, it's really tempting to think, that's it, we found it, this is the fundamental operating system of the whole universe. But that's not quite what's going on here. And this is where the entire idea just pivots and shows you what it's really all about. It's not about the universe out there, it's about the one in here. There it is, the big twist. This whole framework, this whole idea of nodes and systems, it's not a theory about physics or what the universe is made of. It's a map of the human mind. It's the only way we can think. We make sense of the world by spotting parts, the nodes, and figuring out how they fit together, the systems. It's literally the shape of our consciousness. This completely reframes a concept like infinity. We think of it as this endless space you could travel through. But in this view, infinity isn't a place. It's a conceptual limit. It's the error message our brain gets when it tries to find the final biggest system or the absolute smallest node and realizes it can't. So if this whole thing is a map of how we think, how do we actually use it? Well, the answer takes us to the deepest, most profound part of this entire idea.
See, this isn't some idea you can just analyze from a distance, like a science experiment. To really, truly get it, you can't just pretend to go along with it. You have to genuinely, actually believe it's a valid way of seeing the world.
So, belief here isn't just a nice-to-have attitude, it's the functional key. It's like installing a new operating system on your computer. You have to accept the terms and conditions. You have to adopt that core premise for any of the apps to actually run. Without that, the whole system just stays locked. And this is the final piece that makes it all click. This framework isn't trying to argue that the world is only made of matter or that it's only made of mind. No. What it's saying is that it's the underlying mental architecture, the system of nodes and systems itself, that lets us build and run these big philosophies like materialism and idealism in the first place. It's the operating system, not the software running on it. So in the end, this whole idea turns the camera right back around on us. If the way we see the world is built on this endless looping structure, and if our ability to even use it depends on what we believe, that leaves us with one really powerful question. What are the limits of your own perception, and what could you understand if you just believed it was possible?